Hang on, Mr. Douglas. Yeah.
Hello, hello. Welcome back for our little exploration through Ingo Swann's Secrets of Power, Volume 1, excerpts today from Chapter 5. And Chapter 5 introduces ideas of looking at presented and not presented formats of power structures. Ingo opens Chapter 5 with this brief excerpt here, introducing us to what we'll be thinking and talking about when it comes to power structures. Take a listen. There are any number of ways of picturing the designs or layouts of social power structures, and it is the function of this chapter to at least cast a brief glance at some of them. Doing so will increase the dimensions of awareness among those who are interested in empowerment and also be helpful in reversing subtle depowerment realities at work in most of those structures. The most popular being the pyramid, whether it's in Egypt on the dollar bill or some kind of scheme. The presentation of a power structure as a pyramid makes the most sense. Ingo says it's easy to grok to most minds at a passing glance. Right? You got the few at the top giving orders to the people in the middle who execute the orders and get the people at the bottom to do what they're told. But there are other formats and ways of looking at power and power structures that are probably a little bit more informative as to the actual situation of what's going on when it comes to power structures. One of the easiest would be the iceberg example, where you have just a little bit on the top and you got a whole bunch more stuff going on the bottom. Whereas presented power structure at the top, what we're allowed to be aware of when it comes to the power structure is really just the tip of the top of the iceberg that's above the water, whereas what's really going on, the actual power moves being made, and the real mechanisms of that structure are invisible, hidden, and submerged beneath the surface of what is presented to us. Another one would be an octopus, with its bulbous head in the middle and arms outstretched, wrapping around so many different aspects and avenues of life and industry. The octopus is a popular example when it comes to the ever-increasing control and surveillance that governments might have, or massive mega-business structures. Right? And there are several ways to consider thinking about, imagining, and mentally munching on certain formats of power structures. In this next brief excerpt, Ingo discusses two interesting factors when it comes to the presentation of the ever-popular pyramidal structure. As it stands, there is nothing wrong with this pyramidal presentation, with two rather subtle exceptions. First, the powerful themselves endorse the pyramidal presentation, since it establishes sequential gradients of order, while at the same time letting everyone know that this is how it is. The pyramidal format also gives the subtle but explicit impression that access to power merely requires a vertical ascent to the top. Second, and even more subtle, empowerment in the pyramidal format is to be understood as the vertical ascent, and nothing else. And especially so within the existing power structure and what it stands for. In other words, notions of empowerment and routes to it are confined within the power structure, and this makes it possible and entirely probable that the top power echelons determine who is to ascend or not. I very much enjoy Ingo's consistent bringing to light of what seems to be foregone conclusions that are then, pretty much passed over and not considered or thought about or delved deeper into. The one being, you got these pyramidal presentations of power, we all just kind of accept. But who is the one, or whom are the ones, presenting this pyramidal structure to us? And if it's being presented to us, and the population as a whole is swallowing it more or less hook, line, and sinker, why are they presenting it to us this way? What do they have to benefit from having us think about power this way instead of another way? That second point, which is really, even more interesting, is that idea that the only way to ascend a power structure is going right up to the top. There is no other way. Here's this lovely, conformed, ordered structure, and it's very clear if one would like to leave the fat bottom of the masses, one must go upward in level, right? Well, it only seems logical. Throughout the chapter, though, and throughout the book, Ingo presents power structures in many different ways, and one way in which power structures are similar, no matter what way they are presented or are in actuality, is that they all have these labyrinthine-type mazes built in them on purpose, having disinformation and misinformation and dead ends and drops, switchbacks, all that fun stuff that mazes have, on purpose, so that ascending any kind of power structure is anything but straightforward, really. And so, this presentation of this ordered pyramidal structure is in itself a form of depowerment, because it presents a very deep untruth as to the actual structure of how things are actually operating and going on. Case in point, I'm reading the 2-volume series by Whitney Webb, One Nation Under Blackmail, and page after page you are hammered with the fact that the presented structures that the public had throughout from the 1950s on, from the end of World War II to today, are absolutely not at all the way things are actually operating. You have good old boys clubs and people who know people who've known people who know their kids, who put their kids and other people that they've known together to make these businesses that operate businesses underneath businesses. And it's all connected in this weird way that, and by weird, I mean uncomfortably nepotistic and not at all meritocratic way, that the machinations of the industries and governmental as well as criminal institutions operating within and throughout them are interconnected in ways, and this is an oversimplification, but it is persistent throughout the book. They're interconnected in ways based on blackmail and fear and, gross leverage, whether it's financial, sexual, or otherwise. The way things actually operate are not at all a pretty ordered pyramid, the way that we are being shown. And these points that Ingo brings up, once you take them into your mind and take the time to simply hold them in your mind as you look around your world, things are gonna look different, no matter what. There's nothing you can do. But that is another kind of defogging of the map. The real map that we all have, that we've just got to, day by day, defog a little bit more and more. And that is why I find this information so important and why I am so happy you are here with me. Definitely check out ingoswann.com, INGOSWANN.com. It's a wonderful website. You can learn more about the man himself and his myriad works. And the time is fast approaching when the two of us can walk together with me in your ear, listening to the full audio production of Ingo Swann Secrets of Power Volume 1, where we can ramp up awareness heightening and individual empowerment awakening together. I'm all about it. And hey, thanks for hanging. I'll catch you on the next one.